to Griffon Update Sports, a student-produced show all about Missouri Western athletics. We've got it all every week. Highlights, games, players, fans, and every sport all year long.
Welcome to Griffon Update Sports. I'm Jake Michael.
And I'm Morgan Doyle. This past week in Missouri Western sports, women's soccer ended their season on a strong note, but fell to number 4 ranked UCM 3-2. Women's volleyball has clinched a playoff spot in the MIAA championships last Saturday after coming back from a 24-21 deficit in the fourth set to beat Pittsburgh State 3-1.
Men's and women's cross country both made big statements 2 Saturdays ago when they competed in the MIAA championships. In Joplin, the women finished 7th as a group and the men finished 9th as a group. Junior Megan Gillen for the women finished 11th individually, and on the men's side, junior Riley Gorham finished at a team best 32nd individually.
Fall sports are wrapping up fast, but not to worry because basketball season is already in full swing.
And it's very easy to forget because these fall sports have been generating so much buzz all throughout the season. However, men's and women's basketball have plenty of things fans should like as things are starting to take off.
Exactly. This women's team has a brand new coach, but on the flip side, has a lot of experienced players. For more on what to expect from them this season, here's Christopher Tenpenny.
Shoes squeaking, balls bouncing, and whistles blowing can only mean one thing. Basketball is back.
We're, obviously excited. I think players are always anxious to get the preseason over with and kind of start playing games, start playing someone else. And, I've enjoyed my time with them and anxious to kind of get going myself and see them in game situations and see just, how good we can be this season.
New head coach Candace Whitaker will begin her first season with the Griffons after being hired back in April. While she's only been here a few months, she already has the respect and trust of her team.
It's been going well. We all respect her to a high level, and she gets on us, but we respect it and use it to get better.
Whitaker will not be the only new face as the Griffons welcome 8 new players to this year's roster, but the chemistry of this team does not seem to be an issue.
For 8 new players, and 6 returners and a whole new staff, I think it's been really good. I think that's something that has gone smoothly and everyone's kind of starting from scratch, and so for so many new, they probably don't feel so new, just because everyone's starting from the same spot.
Honestly, it's probably one of the best I've ever been on. The chemistry is just good. We are all there for each other.
One familiar face returning is senior guard Katrina Roenfeld, who was all MIAA first team a season ago.
She's been a good leader. I think her leadership and her consistency is going to be key for this team, that no matter what's happening, good or bad, that she's very steady. She's going to have to play a lot of minutes for us, kind of high volume. She's a kid that's made a lot of tough shots. I want her to work on taking easier shots, using off-ball screens, on-ball screens, just being able to create a little more in different ways. She's very good off the bounce, but I think she can get some more catch-and-shoot opportunities and just a fantastic shooter.
The Griffons were predicted to finish 11th in the coaches poll and 8th in the media poll, but this team remains very optimistic.
Team itself, I believe we will finish high this season, and defensively we'll be pretty good. That's our strength right now, I'd have to say.
It's hard to just put a number on it, right? Everything's so new. We're learning. We're growing together. For them, just, are they coming to work every single day? Are they doing what they need to do to prepare for opponents? Are they in the gym making themselves the best they can be? That's really my expectation from them on a daily basis. So we need to have high expectations that we're going to compete every single night and try to win each possession and win ball games.
The Candy Whitaker era will officially begin Friday night against Concordia University, St. Paul, as part of the Hilliard Classic tip-off. And while this may not be a true home game for the Griffons, it will be played in Civic Arena right here in downtown St. Joseph. The women have won 7 consecutive home openers and will look to extend that streak Friday night, with tip-off being at 5:30. Reporting for Griffon Media, I'm Christopher Tenpenny.
Chris has joined us to give us a little more info on this team. Chris, it's a new era. Whole new coach. Did you sense that the culture has changed in any way?
I think that's what every new coach wants to do, is have their own identity, bring in a new culture, and that's definitely what Coach Whitaker's been doing early. Brought in 7 transfers, only has 1 freshman, 6 returning players on this team, including all MIAA first team Katrina Roenfeld. So they have that going for her, but yes, she is trying to make her own identity early.
Now, Chris, the MIAA coaches poll and media polls came out preseason, and both had the Griffs pretty low in the second half of the rankings. Do you think they have any chance to surprise some people?
I really do. They play very good defense. They had an exhibition game up in Iowa State this past weekend, and that's what both the coaches and players took away from it, was how good of a defense they were playing against a Division I team. Like, that's always positive. And then they've added a lot of depth. Like we said, they have brought in a lot of transfers, so they have that experience. They can play, 8, 9, even 10 girls on a night, and so I think that's going to give them an opening to surprise some people.
All right, cool. Thanks, Chris. We're excited to see what they can do this year. Well, we can't forget that Coach Sundance Wiggs and the men's basketball team had kicked off their season last Friday at the Civic Arena here in St. Joseph. Reporter Riley Reagan was there to cover this game, and here's how it all went down.
The Missouri Western men's basketball season started Friday, November 1st at Civic Arena here in St. Joseph. The Griffon men went up against number 9, Southern Nazarene University, in the SCB National Hall of Fame Classic. Number 33, Will Eames, was high scorer for the Griffons. The redshirt freshman ended his first game for Missouri Western with 19 points and 7 rebounds. Number 3, sophomore Tyrell Carroll, scored the next highest for the Griffons with 12 points. Both teams held their own in the paint, scoring 36 points down low. The Griffons struggled to hold onto the ball with 15 turnovers and 10 steals, giving Southern Nazarene 20 of its points. At halftime, Missouri Western men were down by only 6 points, but trailed by up 30 points during the second half. The final score saw the Griffons with a 96-74 loss to the Crimson Storm. The Griffon men played again Saturday, November 2nd, against Damon College. In a close game, the Damon Wildcats pulled out a 68-64 win against Missouri Western men. Tyrell Carroll was the leading scorer for the game with 22 points, just 1 point short of a career high. Griffon men will play again Friday, November 8th, against Minnesota State Moorhead at Civic Arena. This is Riley Reagan reporting for Griffon Update Sports.
After the game against Southern Nazarene, Ryan Minley, who's with Missouri Western, was in that locker room following the loss. And, Coach Wicks just looked his guys in the face and said, the first step of understanding how to take a loss is to know how it feels.
Yeah, the video Ryan made in the locker room shows how much he demands from the players and how he holds them to such a high standard. There's going to be bumps in the road, and this is probably just one of those that they've got to get over.
That's right, most definitely. So earlier in the show, we mentioned that women's volleyball clinched a playoff spot. And we know about Lauren Murphy and her historic career, and the others have been, spectacular all season long. But there's one catalyst that really makes them go.
That is right, Jake. Junior Allie Tauken has been absolutely dominant this year. She is now 5th in the MIAA in hitting percentage, 4th in kills, and 3rd in blocks. For more on Tauken, here is Derek Zimmerman-Geyer.
Every team needs a leader, and every leader needs to be a stone-cold killer. Junior Allie Tauken is Griffon Volleyball's silent leader. Tauken leads the team in kills of 304, good for 5th most in the MIAA. Even with just 5 regular season games left, Tauken has set out to outdo her past self.
Allie is never satisfied until she feels like she's reached her own personal standard of success.
Only a sophomore in 2018, the Iowa City native recorded 286 kills and averaged 2.49 per set. The star athlete averages 3.53 this year and is also a stoic defender as she recorded a team high of 81 blocks.
As an underclassman still, I was still trying to learn how to lead a team of this many girls with all these different personalities and what strategies work for each of them and how they interact with each of the players. So now that this year when I'm in a leadership role, I can handle my teammates appropriately and know how to communicate with them and be an effective leader.
And even if she doesn't always come through with a kill, she's getting the other team out of system. She's drawing a lot of attention, which opens up a lot for the rest of the hitters in our offense.
I like to play for my teammates. Seeing my teammate get a kill makes me more excited than when I get a kill myself. And so just feeding off their energy and being excited for them and working hard for them versus playing for myself is one thing that I try to do, and I feel like it's the style of play. And so, yeah.
With individual success, there must be team success, and the 14-10 Griffons have had their fair share. With already as many wins as last season, Tauken has been a big part of the team's winning ways. For the Western Windup Podcast and Griffon Media, this has been Derek Zimmerman-Geyer signing off.
Derek has now joined us on set to talk more about Allie. So, Derek, Where do you think her drive comes from?
I really think she just feeds off her teammates' energy. And like you said, she leads both blocks and kills. So whenever she's not in one of those categories, her teammates step up, and that just brings the whole team together in general.
Coach Carbon has said before that she's able to rise in big moments and that those moments really don't scare her. And when they need her, she's there for them. So how much do you think that boosts their confidence heading into the postseason?
I think it has to boost a lot, especially when she's performing well. I mean, we've seen them almost rise to the occasion twice now against a really good ranked Northwest team and take them to 5 sets and almost win. And they're on that, almost at that point where they can almost get over that mental edge. And they haven't gotten there yet, but, with 5 games left as of right now going to the regular season, they have to find that clicking moment. And once they get that, I think they'll be fine.
Thanks, Derek. Stay tuned because coming up, we'll have Derek's 60-second hot take. But first, we'll take a short break for a public service announcement. More Griffon Update Sports after this.
Hello, welcome to Hot Takes with your host and the host of the Western Windup podcast, Derek Zimmerman Geyer. It's supposed to be cold right now, but not only my takes keep me warm, so is the state of Griffon athletics. Just like Chris Tiffany's Dropping Diamonds podcast, let's drop my needle. Wyatt struggled to only pass for 104 yards against Pitt State, but give credit to Gorilla's #1 passing defense. Meanwhile, Nebraska Kearney is the key to a Griffon playoff push, and West will need to push the ball down the field in the air on Saturday. Lopers only gave up 25 points per game, but so did Pitt State. UNK gives up 242 passing yards a game, 9th worst in the conference. Stagg will light up the Lopers with 260 or more passing yards and a trifecta of 3 touchdowns, 2 scores from the tight ends. Oh yeah, don't forget how good that Western defense is now. Griffins win their 7th straight game, 38-21. Last year, women's basketball averaged 64 points a game. The University of Concordia St. Paul gave up 60 points a game. The Golden Bears also allowed 5 3-pointers made per game, so watch out for senior Katrina Roenfeld, the reigning conference leader in that category. She averaged 3 a game last year, and she will warm up a chilly Friday night with some hot shooting. Griffins win both games this weekend. Men's basketball gave 2 ranked teams a run for their money last weekend, and now that Missouri Western has 2 games under its belt, the Griffins can mix that experience with some juice and make a winning recipe. Tyler Carroll has scored double digits in each game, and he will drop 15 or above this weekend, and the Griffins will at least win 1. That is it for this week's Tomas Calientes, so that's Spanish for hot takes, by the way, for the West Show Wind Up podcast, which is what all the cool kids are following, by the way. This is Derek Zimmerman Geyer, signing off.
Welcome back. We're now joined by sports reporter Tanner Cobb to discuss the NBA season, which kicked off just a couple weeks ago. Now, guys, there were a lot of moves this offseason. So which ones surprised you and which ones do you think will have the biggest impact?
Well, the Kawhi move didn't really surprise me all that much, only in the sense that the Clippers were kind of under the radar during that whole process. Like, he took meetings with the Lakers, which actually ended up getting leaked about what they talked about, which was a bad move. He took a meeting with the Clippers, and it was like, okay, I mean, they're kind of in the mix, but we're like, well, they can't be the winners of this, right? Because nothing really happened. Like, no one's talking about it. And I think the media controlled all of it. And then, obviously, he had a meeting with the Raptors, which I think they had a lot to offer him. And I think they had a lot to, persuade him to come back. But I think he wanted a new endeavor. I think he wanted to go home. And then, not many hours later, we had the Paul George trade, which wasn't a free agency move, but it was still shocking because I was like up at like 11 o'clock in the morning when I heard the news about it. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, this just changes everything. Because you knew Kawhi to the Clippers that was a big move. Like, that's impactful because he's such a great two-way player. And then you add another top, 3, 4, two-way player too. And that now that changes everything. So that was just shocking. Just that whole sequence of events was shocking and very impactful.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Paul George getting traded was not expected at all. I mean, him and Westbrook were supposed to, be a team together. He just came back. He decided to re-sign last summer, and now they shipped out Westbrook as well. He went to Houston. I think that's huge. And the Rockets basically have the same team. They just got rid of Chris Paul. He got a bunch of draft picks that they don't have for the next decade, dang near. But
took a big gamble.
They did. But Westbrook and Harden got reunited. They played together in Oklahoma City, grew up together. I think that's huge. But of course, that Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on the Clippers is huge. But Anthony Davis to the Lakers is one of the biggest ones of this offseason. You know, he's probably the best big man LeBron's ever played with. And LA Lakers finally can make a postseason push for the first time in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, no, and so they've been out of contention for a long time, like 2013, I think was the last time they made
2013.
the playoffs, and they were like an 8 seed. And so, there's a lot of expectations surrounding them, and I still have questions about the chemistry between, AD and LeBron, because LeBron's really never had this dominant of a big man to play alongside
Never.
of. You can make your comparisons of who they remind you of, Shaq and Penny, Shaq and Kobe, but this is unlike anything we've ever seen. We're talking about two absolutely dominant players in their own special ways. So, but the rest of the roster has to fill out. And, Danny Green's kind of shocked me a little bit, the way he's been playing and the way he's been able to come up big in the clutch. They don't really have a point guard right now until Rondo comes back. So
even when he comes back, they don't have a backup.
They really
Avery
don't.
Bradley's shooting guard playing the one.
Yeah.
But when you have LeBron, he can play point guard basically. He can do it all.
Yeah. And then this term of load management has been thrown around a lot. And so LeBron at his age really needs to take games off. He really shouldn't be running the point like he is. I think he could be effective playing off the ball, coming off screens, but he's going to have to take on the point guard role because there's just no really other option besides Rondo.
All right, now let's talk about the total outlook of the season, because recently in the last few years, the Warriors have been the obvious dominant team, but that seems like it's going to be pretty different this year. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think the two teams in LA are looking like they're going to be the top two. That's going to be an excellent matchup if they come in the postseason, especially being in LA. Both teams play in the Staples Center. I'm really excited for that, but I would have to give the edge to the Clippers because I think they have a better defense. Pat Beverly plays great defense. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are both great, arguably the two greatest two-way players in the league. LeBron and AD are great, but when it comes to defense, they're good, but they don't have the edge like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George do.
Yeah, I think as far as grit and grind players, other than the two guys that you have in Kawhi and Paul George, their roster fills out really well, and they got guys that will step up in big moments because write them off as much as you want, but last year they kind of gave the Warriors a run for their money. I know they lost in, 6, but they still gave them a run for their money. They were tough to handle. So it is different. It's weird going into a season not thinking that it's one team that's going to win it all, and now there's more parity in the league than we've ever seen. And there's actually teams in the West that I'm like, man, kind of towards the bottom, I'm like, Utah could if they were in the East, could probably win the East. That's how good they are. And, Portland could, win the East if they wanted to. So, there's a lot of teams. There's probably about 8 teams I could think of that could win the title. I don't know if there's one definitive favorite, and so I'm excited to see how it plays out.
I think the Rockets are a team you can't forget about. They've been right there the past few years. 4 of the last 5 years, they got beat by the Warriors. They just couldn't beat the juggernaut of an offense Golden State had, and they brought in Russell Westbrook in place of Chris Paul. So I think that is huge. They basically built a team to beat the Warriors with a bunch of jump shooters, and now they don't have to deal with the Warriors. They have to deal with other teams as well, but I don't think any team is nearly as good as the Warriors have been. So it's going to be really interesting to see, and I'm also excited to see LeBron James in the West because, all his career, he's had kind of a cakewalk, give or take a couple series here and there in the East. 9 times he's played a Western Conference opponents in the finals, and he's 3-6. So even though it's different, I'm excited to see what could happen.
Yeah, I think, when you talk about Houston, that's high risk, high reward doing what they did with Westbrook, right? It could go really, really well, or it could go really, really bad because the chemistry just may not be there. And you're asking Westbrook to be something that he's really not and kind of play off the ball a little more, which I think he actually had more success in his first stint, with the really good Oklahoma City team with KD and Serge Ibaka and those guys. And now I just wish they would ask him to play that way a little more because he's not a spot-up shooter. Let's be honest. His field goal percentage reflects that. So it's high risk, high reward. There really is no middle ground. They can make a playoff spot, but we'll know by then if it really can work. It's not just going to turn on come playoff time. So they're going to be interesting to watch. I'm actually excited, and I'm not a big Westbrook fan, but I'm excited to watch them every game they're on.
What's fascinating is they're both great scorers and passers. They've actually one of the two have led the league in scoring in 4 out of the last 5 years, and they both are always up there in assists. Westbrook's averaged a triple-double the last 3 years. Harden's been in the MVP convo for probably the past 4 or 5. I think Harden can mess around and make another push for MVP, but man, that team looks like they could do some damage.
Most definitely.
Now you brought up MVP, even though season's only been going on for about 2 weeks. Any early MVP thoughts?
I personally like Giannis to repeat again because of what his team asks him to do, and because of all the easy buckets he gets inside, and not to mention he is also a very, very good defensive player. His shooting, outside of the paint, it's iffy, it's shoddy, but he's such a dominant force, and his team asks so much of him. He could play any position 1 through 5, really. Like, I would never have him bring the ball up to the floor, but you're like, okay, he could do it if he had to. They lost Brogdon over the offseason, so that's a big loss. But what really matters is obviously your record at the end of the year. I think Westbrook kind of debunked that a little bit because when he won it, they were like, what, a 4th or 5th seed? It
like
was
a 6th seed, yeah.
Something
but
like that.
He just had such a historical season. You kind of had to give it to him in that situation. But
yeah,
it's kind of rare that you give it to a player who's not on a top 2 team, really.
Yeah.
But I do think Harden has just been so good. Like last year, he had a historical scoring season. And, Giannis Antetokounmpo just kind of had the edge because of, at the end of the day, they were the 1 seed in the East. But, you can't forget about LeBron. I mean, it's been a while since he's won MVP. He is just such a dominant player. They're looking like they're going to be a top team in the West, top 3 at least, or should be. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, at the end of the day, LeBron always has a great stat line. If he takes that team to a top seed in the West, I don't see how he wouldn't be in the conversation.
Yeah. I think what we're going to be arguing about come the end of the year when they decide to vote on this, because guys will have sat out games. They just will. And so you're going to take, the sample size from Giannis's season, which he's probably going to play more games than LeBron. LeBron may have better averages than him, but you're going to be like, wait, LeBron sat out a bunch of games. So,
yeah.
I think people are going to be, really arguing about that. So I got Giannis.
I'm going to stick with Harden, but I think LeBron's going to make a little conversation for himself.
Yeah, most definitely. I hope somebody comes out of nowhere and surprises everybody. If it was my vote, I'd give Donovan Mitchell, but I'm biased because I like Donovan Mitchell a lot. So I hope someone comes out of nowhere because it's a little early to be talking about it. I mean, we can make predictions already, but I mean, it's still a little early.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, Tanner. To get you caught up on what's happening this week in Missouri Western sports, women's basketball will have games on Friday and Saturday here in St. Joe at the Civic Arena. Friday's game tips off at 5:30 and Saturday's game tips off at 6.
Men's basketball games will follow both the women's games at the Civic Arena on Friday and Saturday as they'll be looking to bounce back from that 0-2 start. Women's volleyball continues play tonight as they travel to Liberty to take on William Jewell at 7.
That's all we've got for you this week. Make sure to tune in to Griffon Update next week for the latest campus news and Jake's Sports Report.
Catch us on Suddenlink Channel 12 and our Griffon Media Vimeo and YouTube channels. From all of us here at Griffon Update Sports, thank you for watching.
Welcome to Griffon Update Sports, a student-produced show all about Missouri Western athletics. We've got it all every week. Highlights, games, players, fans, and every sport all year long.